indeed my compliments, I think, to Deputy Troy for having tabled the motion. I think it's a very positive motion. I think he went out of his way to be positive in how he constructed it. And I suppose if I feel anything about it is a little bit disappointed that we would be dividing as a House here this evening on something that is important to all of us, because, Minister, you know, we united, all of us, to go to the people in 2012 and convince them of the importance of supporting the children's rights referendum. And it would be nice, I think, if we had been able to come here this evening and put aside our political differences and agree around a motion that would give effect to the provision of resources and services that would enhance the lives of children right up and down the length and breadth of the country. Deputy Tony Lawler is a good friend of mine for many years, but I was disappointed to hear him come in here and make party political comments, because I think he's wide of the mark. I'm particularly proud, as somebody who came into these houses in the year 2000, that between 2000 and 2011, Fianna Fáil have been in many respects pioneering in their approach to childcare provision. Over that period, we had the various capital programmes. We saw in excess of 400 million invested in the provision of the places. We saw about 65,000 places provided on foot of that expenditure. It didn't satisfy everyone. It didn't meet all the demands that existed. But it started a process in train that has borne, I think, very real fruits, and that has brought major benefits to many households and to individuals up and down the length and breadth of the country. And I've said repeatedly to my good friend Barry Andrews that in introducing the free early childhood education scheme, he was doing something that was on a par really with what had been done many decades ago by the late Donogh O'Malley in introducing the free second level education. Because there is no doubt, and I think we're all agreed on this, that at the core of the challenge that faces us all in the body politic, to build a better community, to build a better society, that the earlier that we intervene in support of young children, the better. And in particular, the earlier that we intervene in circumstances of disability and disadvantage, the better for all of us and the better the outcomes will be. And that's why I was interested in the course of the last week, Minister. In my constituency, I attended two public meetings. The first was with a group of parents of children on the autistic spectrum. And I'm alluding here to some extent to the points made by Deputy Michael Creed. Because when you sat in that hall and you listened to the stories of the parents involved, the childcare that they wanted was specialist childcare that would meet the needs of their children. They wanted the various therapies, speech therapy, language therapy, and there was no consistency in availability. And I would say, and I think I've complimented you in the past in becoming the first minister. We would be proud in Fianna Fáil that we appointed the first junior minister and continue to do so with responsibility for childcare. Fair play to this government that we now have a full minister at Cabinet. But there is a huge job of work to be done in ensuring that those children who are themselves significantly disadvantaged can avail of a uniformity of care across the country, and that their parents who have to contend with the trials and tribulations, very real trials and tribulations of raising a child. One woman at that particular meeting had 3 children on the autistic spectrum, and I can only shudder to think at the challenges and responsibilities that she has on a daily basis. And yet, to get support from the system, to get childcare, she must battle every day. And it shouldn't be like that. And you now, as Minister, can do something about that. A little later in the same week, I had the very interesting experience with my colleagues and your colleague Deputy Martin Hayden and Deputy Jack Wall to meet with the Athy Travellers Club. Wonderful group of people. One of the facilities that they provide is a community childcare facility for the local traveller community, where the local traveller community children are joined in the service by other marginalised groups in the local community in Athy. But Minister, would you believe me that it appears that the capitation grant made available to that childcare facility has been cut by your department and by Pobble. Well, I think Pobble only administer the process, but your department, it would appear, is responsible. The monies available have gone from 70,000 in 2013 to 38,000 in 2014. And if that cut is proceeded with by your department, that traveller childcare facility will have to close down. Now, I challenge you to find for me in the communities anywhere around the country young people of similar age who are more marginalised than the children of members of the travelling community. And if it is to come to pass that that level of cut is to be carried by them, then that would be absolutely and utterly disgraceful. And I would ask you, Minister, tonight to look at that particular situation. But, you know, I don't know whether it's an isolated incident or isolated situation or not, because I note a letter that was written to you by Early Childhood Ireland on the 3rd of February, and that this group, which represents, I think, 3,400 childcare providers, expressed very serious concern at what is happening in terms of childcare provision. And I'm quoting from their letter when they say that the sector has adapted and stepped up to meet each new legislative policy requirement, but is now palpably frustrated due to the continuation of unresolved issues, some of which are set out below. They talk about repeated delays and shortfalls in paying the CCS, with significant discrepancies in expected levels of income, appeals for ECCE not being dealt with, and members waiting for resolution of cases from last year. Lack of timely notification of changes to the schemes. Changes are made to schemes without consultation or prior notice, and new stipulations are continually added to contracts. Higher capitation is unresolved. People have recruited staff at level 8 and are paying them higher salaries, but no confirmation from your department of higher capitation to services has been received. In other words, these particular providers, up and down the length and breadth of the country, are coming under enormous pressure. Now, I know that your department, the Child and Family Services, is inevitably going to be under huge pressure, as all government departments are. But we must prioritise. And if we cannot prioritise our children, and if we cannot in particular prioritise the children that are marginalised in this country, and if we cannot do more than express the rhetoric of saying how important it is to break the cycle, unless we invest in actually breaking the cycle, the cost to society in terms of the lost potential of the children and the communities that they will form will be far, far greater into the future. So these are areas, Minister, I think that you need to look at. There isn't anybody in this House who doesn't wish you well. There isn't anybody in this House who doesn't hope that you, above and beyond most other ministers, succeed and succeed admirably in your department. But the reality is there has to be fair play. Those who are disadvantaged and marginalised, those who require early intervention, must experience that. And if they don't, and it appears that some are not currently experiencing that level of support, then, Minister, you will have failed in the challenge that faces you. And I have to say, I don't think that's something that you want to be accused of. And it's an accusation that I don't particularly want to have to level at you when your term in office is finished. Gurra míle maith agat.